Gail, you have mentioned in a couple of, or in a previous conversation, a couple of examples where operators have been able to step up because they've actually had the right environment around them, where they've been encouraged to look for ways to improve the organization or solve a problem. I was
Right.
wondering if there, an example or two you could share where you've seen that actually happen.
Yes, I'd be happy to. I have lots of examples, but I'd like to share two that I
Hmm.
think really always stand out for me. One is I was working with a group of operators from a production area, and there was a lot of pallets of boxes, and it was really cluttered. It was always stuff all over the place. And I got the word that particularly our sales group was very unhappy with that, because when they gave customer tours, this area always looked like a mess. And so as we were working through things, this came up, and the operators were really kind of shocked, because they said, we we don't like this either. This we're the one that's got to work around all this stuff. We're not happy with, because these salespeople, frankly, just kind of assumed these guys, they're production operators, they really didn't care, and so they just had a mess. And they said, absolutely, we care. We don't like all this stuff. And I said, well, why is it all out there? And they said, well, purchasing orders too much, and we don't have any other place to put it, so we put it in every nook and cranny we can find. And so, long story short, is what happened is two of the people, operators, and two of the purchasing agents started meeting every month and went through what they really needed. And within a couple months, all that excess was gone. So it was again, it always struck me, because part of it was our perception was the operators didn't care. And that's totally wrong. And what it really was that there just wasn't communication between the right people who knew what to do. It wasn't the purchasing agent's fault either. They didn't have the right information. But when we got the right people together, these operators and the purchasing agents, everything was solved. I have another story that's my favorite. That we had really progressed with a group of operators on working on processes. And there was one process that consistently ran out of control. So it was creating a fair amount of scrap. This has been going on for quite a while. And in our conversation, there was a young gentleman who was from second shift. He never said much in our continuous improvement meetings, but he was always there. And this was a machine that he ran all the time on second shift. And so it came to it. He quietly said, "I know what's wrong with it." And I said, "Really?" I said, what's wrong with it?" And he said, "Well, so to describe the operation, it was a big machine, had pretty corrosive chemicals in it. And so it was sitting on a grating, and it had a pit underneath it, so that if something went wrong and it ever overflowed, no one would get hurt." And he said to me, "The machine is falling in the pit." And I said, "What?" And sure enough, he said there were wooden beams that held up the machine down in the pit, and they had warped over time. And with the warping, the machine had tipped, and it threw everything out of control. So we got some engineers out there and construction, and they rebuilt the posts underneath it. The machine got level. It ran completely in control. No more scrap. So I went back to the gentleman and I said, because he'd run this machine a long time, and I said, Tim, if you knew this, how come you never said anything before? And I'll never forget what he said. He said, "No one ever asked me." And so the learning, and I'll never forget it. I'll never forget that conversation, because how many times do we not ask, or how many times do we create the environment or the impression that we don't care about what they have to say, and we're not open to their suggestions when they have the answers? And so those two examples, like I said, I have lots of them, but those two I think are classic as far as if we open up, if we create an environment, and the supervisors are key to this, create an environment where people, the operators on the production floor, can help the company be better. They have the knowledge and they're more than happy to do it.